Welcome to the Batmandrew podcast, the podcast that nobody asked for. In this podcast, we talk about our love of video games, movies, television shows, superheroes, really anything that sparks our love for fandom, all from the perspective of an everyday dude like me. So, thank you if you're here watching, thank you for joining, thank you for listening, and let's go ahead and jump into today's campaign. In the world of nostalgia, no video game company does it better than Nintendo. That is by far, I understand that Atari came first. I get that there was other platforms. Nintendo's where it's at when it comes to nostalgia, and I think we saw that in regards to the Super Mario Brothers movie, right? It made over $1 billion, and it really hit us in all the feels. Anytime a new Mario game comes out, it's always at the top of the bestseller charts. Nintendo has it down when it comes to nostalgia and video games. But they're wanting to really get into the movie business. So word broke that Nintendo is set to obviously release the next Super Mario Galaxy movie. It comes out in April of 2026, followed by what's going to be a live-action Legend of Zelda movie. And with the Legend of Zelda, so I'm not a Zelda fan. I think... Hot take here. Legend of Zelda is the most overrated video game of all time. Like, I don't get the hype for it. I understand a lot of RPG games, especially older games. Like, they didn't do a lot of the, I guess the voice acting and stuff like that. Like all that had to come later as the technology progressed. But why in the world Legend of Zelda does not have actual live action voices in their new games or is honestly beyond me. I can't play it. It's just not for me. With that being said, I do think a live action Legend of Zelda movie has a lot of potential. So I'm excited to see what Nintendo does with that. But they're setting their sights aiming a little bit higher than just a Legend of Zelda movie. In fact, in their recent shareholder meeting, they came out and talked about how there is actually going to be 2 additional movies to come out after Legend of Zelda in 2027. Now, these are unannounced. However, we're going to speculate, right? So with 2 movies on the horizon past 2027 for Nintendo, what could those movies be? And obviously, I think without a doubt, it's going to be a third Mario Brothers movie, especially if Mario Brothers Galaxy ends up... I don't know if it's going to make $1 billion like the first one did. That's a high mark to be able to hit. But I do think that there's potential there, right? I do think that you could potentially see it get to the $700, $800, $900 million range, cross over $1 billion if it's really good, especially if it helps to kind of cater to families and getting kids out to go see it and whatnot. But either way, even if it's, makes 2/3 of what the first one did, it's going to be a $700 million movie. So I think it's safe to say that one of the next 2 after Legend of Zelda is going to be a third Mario Brothers movie. But what could that additional release be, right? And what does Nintendo have? What are they looking at for their future in the world of, video game movie adaptations? And I think there's a couple of different directions that they could go. However, I think that if they're really wanting to make a splash, they're really wanting to really sink their feet into the world of movie making, I think depending on how Legend of Zelda goes would depend on whether or not you make that next movie animated or live action. I think that they should stay away from live action unless if they're talking about an IP like Legend of Zelda. So if you're saying, okay, what could that additional movie be? What could they do? Where could they go? What directions could they go? It's going to cost a lot of money to get the licensing for it. But I think there's 2 things you can do. One, I think it needs to be, and this is my number 1 choice, would be a Super Smash Brothers movie. I think that if you can go out and get some of the IP to be able to bring in some of these legendary characters that we're accustomed to playing with in a Smash Brothers game, I think that would go a long way to be able to have a fun, lighthearted Mortal Kombat type movie with some of these video game characters. I honestly think it would be a lot of fun. But the direction I think they're going to go, which is still as equally cool, I think it would be fun, would be a Mario Kart movie. Like, how do you not, like, if you're looking at your world and wanting to be able to flush out movies, you need to be able to start grounded. And although that would be 4 Mario IP movies in a row, they're all going to be 4 drastically different movies. You give us a Mario Kart movie, something in a vein of like Gran Turismo. Like, if you saw that Gran Turismo movie, so much better than it had any business being. And I love Gran Turismo. I played that growing up. Like, that one, I was not expecting for that movie to be as good as it was, despite the fact that the game is probably the best racing game of all time, right? Like, that series is probably the best racing series of all time. So I think you need to go, I think they will go Mario Kart. Like, I think it makes sense. I think it would be fun. I think it would be exciting. I think it would be something that the family could get involved in. And I think that you surround it by the next release of Super Mario Kart 9. Like, I think that just makes sense, right? You have the movie and the game released in the same year. Like, you're going to make all the money if you're Nintendo. And I think it just makes sense. Even though I would love to see a Smash Brothers movie, I think that would be the most fun out of all the different IPs that they could do. It is going to cost a lot of money to be able to get those licensing, but I do think it would be worth it. However, I think the direction they're going to go is a Mario Kart movie, and I don't know if I'd be mad at it. Like, I think it would be a lot of fun. I think it'd be really interesting. So, with those 2 additional slots, though, what do you think? Like, where could they go with their Nintendo movie franchise, like their world? Where are they going to go with it? What could they do? Drop it in the comments. Let me know. All right, moving on to our next segment. Here we go. It is that time of the year. Game of the Year nominations are about to drop. We're probably about a week or 2 away from them announcing the official list for Game of the Year. And according to IMDb, they've narrowed it down to 6 potential choices to take those nomination spots for Game of the Year. So I want to go over them real quick. At number 6, they have Hades 2. Full transparency, a couple of these games I haven't even heard of. This is one of them. Like, I'm a casual gamer. I'm sure if I watched the trailers of it or something, I would recognize the title. But I have no idea what Hades 2 is about. The number 5 spot is Hollow Knight. I've seen trailers for it. It looks good. Not really my kind of video game, but hey, to each their own. So that made it on the list. Number 4, Split Fraction, which I'm actually pretty, like, it looks good. Split Friction, it looks good. But I don't know, like, again, some of these games that get nominated for Game of the Year, like, they're just not the kind of games that I'm that into. So I don't know. Like, it is one that I have on my queue, like, that I want to be able to play. It looks like a really good game. So I don't know. We'll see if I get around to it. But then your top 3, which are games that I'm definitely either playing or going to play, is Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think that this looks really fun. And talking again about Nintendo that we talked about earlier in the show, like, Nintendo knows how to make really fun video games. And are they all hits? No, but especially when it comes to their core IP, Mario, Donkey Kong, for example, like, they got their shit together for it. Number 2, Death Stranding 2. I own 1 and 2. I've never played 1 or 2. Like, I am notorious for buying video games and never playing them. So I'm sure I will get around to playing these. But I will tell you that the premise of the games and the graphics and the storylines from everything I can tell, they look really, really good. Like, that is the kind of game that I would be up for and the kind of games that I would play. I just haven't played them yet. But at number 1, and this typically is number 1 on most people's lists, and I think I'm not going to speak to whether I think it's going to win or not because I haven't played a majority of these other games. I can just only talk about my experience. That's Expedition 33. Like, I'm about halfway through playing it right now. Expedition 33, so far, halfway through, is such a good video game. It is, like, when there are video games that draw you in and that give you great narrative and that give you great character development, but along the way continue to ask question after question after question that draws you in and wants you to continue to play. Like, man, it's just it's such a wonderful game so far. And I say so far because I'm only about halfway through. So there is a very good chance that we get, another 20 hours in a gameplay and I give you my full review and I'm like, man, this game fucking sucks. But so far, halfway through, this is one of the best video games I think I've played like in years. So a few weeks ago, I posted a video, another collab video where we talked about our top 10 favorite video games of all time. And up there on my top 3 list was The Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Uncharted. However, also up there on my top 10 list, I think I had it at number 5 or number 4, was Final Fantasy VII, the remake version, which I get, like, don't hate me. Like, I thought remake was really, really good. That aside, I think that this is the best video game I've played since Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I really hope that they stick the landing. And I'm going to be happy for it if it does end up winning Game of the Year. But I guess a more important question is, like, with movies, the Oscar nominations, you can spend 12 hours and watch all the movies that are nominated for Movie of the Year or Best Movie of the Year, right? If you wanted to go more in depth and you wanted to see the ones that were nominated for, or the actors that were nominated for Best Actor or Actress, or Best Visuals or Best Makeup or Best Score, whatever, right? You can watch all those movies and get caught up. Video games are so much different. Like, it's such a different, experience, and the time commitment. Like, you're talking about these 6 games that are on here, assuming that there's an average of, because some games aren't going to take as long as others, but let's just assume there's an average of 30 hours of video game. Like, you're talking about 180 hours. Is that right? No, 270 hour. Wait, 3 times 6 is 18. So you're talking about 180 hours. Look, I went to a Christian school. Don't judge me. We learned about Jesus, not math. So 180 hours of gameplay to be able to get through, the nomination list of what could potentially be the nomination list for Game of the Year. So my question to you is, how relevant is Game of the Year? Like, obviously I like Expedition 33. I'm going to be super excited for it. But when I was looking at past nominations, first of all, the game that won Game of the Year last year, it's like Orbit something. I have no idea what it was. I had assumed, just, when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, well, last year's Game of the Year was probably Final Fantasy Rebirth. And come to find out, like, it wasn't. And the game that won, I had no idea. I never even heard of. So my question, how relevant is the Game of the Year awards? Like obviously, I've watched it before because I'm a gamer and I enjoy being able to immerse myself in, like, that side of the world of gaming. But even watching the Game of the Year awards, all it is just a giant, like, hour and a half, 2 hour trailer montage of video games to come. And when we have video games, like, this wasn't a topic on today's episode, but I saw that Grand Theft Auto 6, the release date has been pushed back again, and it's not going to come out until about this time next year, which is fine because that's probably going to fall around Christmas, and, like, people are going to be excited for it, and it's probably going to drive sales. But we got the trailer so long ago for Grand Theft Auto 6. Like, so the trailers that we're going to get in the Game of the Year awards, some of them don't even come to fruition, and they don't even put the game out. So Game of the Year awards, how relevant are the awards actually? So I know it's great to be able to put, like, Game of the Year on your title, but I mean, if we go back 3, 4, 5, 6 years, can you tell me who was the winner of Game of the Year in 2019? Like, I don't think you can. And so, although I'm excited for all these games, at the end of the day, I think that we should look at the Game of the Year awards as a introduction to different genres of video games that we could potentially, play. Because again, some of these games I've never even heard of, and that they're on my radar now. I just don't think it really matters who wins Game of the Year. So, that's just my take. You tell me, what do you think in the comments? Let me know. Game of the Year, who do you think will win it? It doesn't even matter. If you told me that the first Mummy movie came out in 1999 with Brendan Fraser, and I was only 12 years old when that movie released, I would think you were lying to me until I did the math. That movie franchise is almost 30 years old. That's insane. Does not feel like it should be that old. With all that being said, 30 years later, we are set for The Mummy 4. Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, I believe is how you pronounce her name, are already in talks to be able to star in a sequel to the Mummy franchise and making a fourth installment of what is honestly such a fun, fantastic franchise. Like, I love the Mummy franchise. I'm a huge fan of Brendan Fraser. I think that he's obviously beloved. Like, right now, especially in Hollywood, like, if you look at the actors that everyone just adores, you have Keanu Reeves at the top, which I don't understand that. I can't stand Keanu Reeves. So with that being said, he's up there at the top of people who love him. After Keanu Reeves, like, Brendan Fraser is up there. And I think that obviously his absence in Hollywood, I think people forgot just how good of an actor he is. And when he came back and he was like in The Well, for example, such a good movie and really elevated by his performance in that movie. So Brendan Fraser can act, right? Like, he can do comedy, he can do action. Can he do it now, right? Like, can he do it at his age 30 years later after the first Mummy movie? It sounds like we're going to find out. So, if you want to be able to read the story, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, all of them have the story out there. Like, you can Google it, you can find it, right? Not a whole lot there other than the people who are attached to it. But talking about this Mummy movie, the Mummy number 4, I gotta tell you, I didn't realize how excited I was going to be for it until I heard that they were actually going to do it. This is going to be really awesome. I think because the third Mummy movie aside, which I thought was actually pretty terrible, the first 2 Mummy movies did a really good job of giving us this like old school Hollywood feel. Kind of like almost like throwback to like the early days of film, but still being fun and exciting and funny and giving us like a lot of great action for a movie that was honestly kind of ahead of its time, right? So Mummy 4 coming out, I think that Brendan Fraser, like, it's all going to depend on like his physical ability to be able to do it and like what he's going to be able to bring to the table at his age. But hear me out. Mummy 4, giving us a little bit of that nostalgia that we got 30 years ago. Some of the fun, some of the flavor, some of the comedy, some of the humor. It would be easy to be able to come at us and say, okay, here we are. It's 30 years later. Here's their stupid kid, which I couldn't stand the kid in the third movie. Here's their stupid kid. Let's go ahead and build around him, and Brendan Fraser will just be attached to it. He'll be the sidekick. He'll be a glorified cameo in this Mummy 4 movie. That would be super disappointing to me. What I want out of this movie is I want The Mummy meets National Treasure. I thought National Treasure, like, it's a damn shame we haven't got a third movie of the National Treasure movies. I thought they're fun. They're honestly a little bit educational, if I'm being honest. But the one things that they did really well is that they gave a really fun family dynamic, especially with the second one. And I think that you could do this with a Mummy 4. You're obviously going to have to address that their son is a part of it, and that's fine. But you need to make sure that Brendan Fraser is the star of this movie if you really wanted to be able to hit all the nostalgia kicks, right? So where they could go with the storyline, I don't care. Like, give us a good, fun movie. I think it would be really cool to be able to see Brendan Fraser come back and kind of continue his resurgence into Hollywood. But let's pause for a second. If Brendan Fraser, who's already made a comeback, but if he's revisiting some of the old IPs that he's been a part of, there's 2 movies that I really want to see him come back for sequels to. The first one would just be fun. Like if I don't get it, I'm not going to lose any sleep over. But it's going to be Bedazzled. If you ever saw the Bedazzled movie, um, it was so fucking funny. Brendan Fraser did such a great job in that movie. And basically, the premise is he makes a deal with the devil and he's able to get like 3 wishes or whatever, right? And through the course of that, like every wish he makes, he kind of fucks it up because there's always like loopholes and clauses into it and stuff like that. So it goes down the line of him like making these mistakes to try to be able to get this girl that he loves to be able to love him back and everything. Obviously, it ends pretty typical, very charming. But the course of the events and the different characters that he plays, like versions of himself that he plays through the movie, super funny. Bedazzled 2, I would love it. But my favorite Brendan Fraser movie is Blast from the Past. If you haven't seen that movie, so Brendan Fraser, he plays a kind of a younger to middle age kid guy, whose parents thought that a bomb had dropped during World War II and had left him, I think it was World War II, anyways, whatever. They went down into their bomb shelter, and it actually just happened to be a plane that crashed in their backyard. And they've lived in this bomb shelter for like 30 years, and they realize they're starting to run out of supplies. So they don't know what's on the outside world. They're afraid of the outside world. So they send their son, Brendan Fraser, to the outside world to be able to go and see if he can get the supplies that they need. So it's this guy who is trapped in what his parents' version of their world was in the 60s and 70s, and trying to be able to learn what the world is like now in the like 90s, 2000s. It's a hilarious movie. Brendan Fraser does a good job. Alicia Silverstone was the other star in the movie, and I think if you're going back to that world of nostalgia, obviously I'm sure the majority of people would want to see a Clueless sequel. I don't really care about Clueless, but I would love to see her and Brendan Fraser in a sequel to Blast from the Past. I just thought it was such a fantastic movie. But either way, we're going to get a Mummy 4, it sounds like. I'm all for it. So what do you think, however? Like, drop it in the comments. Let me know. Are you excited for a Mummy 4? Do you like the Mummy franchise? And, like, do you think that Tom Cruise is a little pissed off about this? Because, man, his reboot of it was not good. Alright, so one of the things I've been wanting to do is work my way through the Final Fantasy franchise. So I played Final Fantasy VII. That was my first Final Fantasy game, and I never played any of the other Final Fantasy games prior to that before playing 7. And then when I played 7, I played 8. I didn't play 9, jumped into 10, ended up playing 15 a little bit. But there's so many games that I missed. I played 13. I try to forget 13. Sorry if you love 13. 13 is not a great game. With all that being said, I had never went back prior to 7. So I went out and I bought the Pixel Remastered and ended up starting from Final Fantasy 1. And yesterday, I finally beat it. Logged about 21 game hours. And obviously when you're talking about these old JRPGs, you're talking about grinding your way through, trying to get to, like a healthy enough level you can take out the bosses or whatever, right? So it's a lot of grinding. It's a lot of just repetitiveness. And sometimes, honestly, that's a little bit therapeutic for me sometimes. And so I went through the storyline of Final Fantasy 1, and I want to tell you there was one thing that stuck out to me like a sore thumb. And the thing was, this game was way too fucking hard. Like, I can't even imagine. This game came out like, I was like 1 or 2 years old when it came out. I can't even imagine being 12 years old back in the late 80s, early 90s, playing Final Fantasy for the first time and figuring out what to actually do to defeat the game. I had to find a walkthrough to tell me where I needed to go and what I needed to do. And I think that speaks to two things. One, the patience people had back then, because bravo to you if you just grinded it out and figured that shit out. But I I was not it. But two, we are lazy gamers. Like, we really are. Like, um I just put up, well, at least whenever you're seeing this, I will have already put up my daily gaming journal for Expedition 33 for my last gameplay for it. And in that video, I talk about how, like, the fact that it doesn't have a map drives me crazy. The fact that there's no really, like, objective cues and, like, direction of where I need to go drives me insane. We are lazy gamers. Like, we need it, like, honestly, and maybe it's just me. I need it to just spell it out for me. Tell me where I need to go. Give me prompts. Give me direction. This game was so hard. I was very frustrated. And found myself, like, really asking, is this worth it? Because the storyline itself was okay. I'm not hating on the storyline. This was made 30 years ago. But the storyline was okay. The graphics obviously are pixel, like that, that's fine. But there was not a lot intriguing about this game. But as a fan of Final Fantasy and someone who loves the franchise, I can appreciate going back and learning about the Four Crystals and the Warriors of Light in the scene where the franchise originated from. So, there were several things that did stand out to me in a positive way. The first one is, after the game was over, I went through the gallery to look at the artwork, some of the original artwork from the game. And I, as a creative, or at least someone who likes to, pretend like they're a creative, I love the fact that they had artists who sat down, created these artworks in this world and these creatures, knowing that the game was not going to be able to bring their artwork to life the way they wanted. And being able to see what their original vision is, I don't know how you do it. I don't know if it's even worth doing. But if you could go back and remake Final Fantasy 1, I don't think you need to do all of them. And in a world where Square Enix is remaking everything, maybe they eventually do. But go back and remake the first one. Revamp the storyline. You're going to have to add a lot to it. Like, I get that. But the first game, the visuals were so, like, what could have been the potential. Man, I don't know. I just sat there and looked through the artwork for like 10 minutes and was just blown away by what someone came up with and, like, their creative process. It blew me away. So the artwork that came along with the game, I thought was phenomenal. I think that the game was way ahead of its time. Does it hold up now? No, it's a pixelated, game from the 80s. Like, it does not hold up now. But at the time, like, in a world where you had some good JRPGs, like, I think, like, Dragon Quest was around that time, and maybe a little bit after was Phantasy Star and stuff like that. This game, like, the idea that they had behind Final Fantasy, way ahead of its time. And I think that what brought it all together with the potential artwork, and I understand, like, again, pixelation, like, you're going to get as close as you can, but with the artwork that they had behind it, the music that they put to it, man, like a lot of that music from the original game I have on my Final Fantasy playlist and I listen to often. But it wasn't until playing the game and hearing the music in the game that it really brought it to life for me. And the music, so good. So, am I going to play, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? I am. I'm going to go ahead and keep going through it. But getting through that first one was a super grind. Here's the funny part, though, right? So after grinding it out, getting through the boss battle and finishing the game, after you beat the final boss, after you beat Chaos, I think is his name, the game ends there, credit rolls, and it's the conclusion of the storyline, and it's a credit that goes through, walking you through, like, what happens after that, and, like, you've ended your journey, all this kind of stuff, right? That end credit is so long. Like, it just took forever, and maybe I was just already impatient because I had already played for a while and I was just ready to be able to kind of be done. But it took so long that as I was sitting there reading it, my sleep mode on my Switch went into effect, and I had to hit my controller to get it to come back up because it just took forever to get through that end credit, which I thought was a little funny. So overall, Final Fantasy 1, was it worth playing? Yes. If you have the Pixels remastered, or if you're thinking about getting it, it's worth it. It's like $60 for the Switch. You get 6 games with it, so you're talking about $10 a game. And yeah, it was really cool to go back through and just feel the origin of Final Fantasy. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. So I don't really give rankings to stuff, but definitely Final Fantasy is I think it's a must play. If you're a fan of the franchise and a fan of the JRPG genre, I think going back to Final Fantasy, because not that there aren't other great JRPG games, but Final Fantasy, like, that's the one that kind of really kicked it all off, right? So going back, playing that for the first time, I just thought it was really a lot of fun. So definitely got to check it out. So I was on YouTube today, scrolling through looking for something to find, and I stumbled across the next trailer for Percy Jackson Season 2. And I want to be able to talk about it for just a brief second. First of all, Percy Jackson Season 1 was a pleasant surprise. I didn't have a whole lot of expectations for it, but I really enjoyed it. I thought they did a really good job of it. I don't read books very often, right? I think I've said this before on my show. I'm not a big reader. I'll listen to a lot of audiobooks, especially when I'm driving for work, but I don't really read a whole lot. So the list of books I've actually read in completion are like super slim. Like there's like five or six books. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief is one of them. And so Season 1, I thought, did really well to adapt the book, but still kind of bring its own flair to it. I was a huge fan of the Percy Jackson movies, the two movies that they came out with. I don't remember the guy's name who was the main actor. Alexander Daddario played the girl in it, but the Percy Jackson franchise, I'm a fan. I really like Percy Jackson. So seeing this new trailer for Season 2, I think Season 2 airs like the 1st of December. Didn't really know what to expect from Season 2, but I gotta tell you, I thought that the trailer here, presenting to us the Sea of Monsters and everything, like the trailer was really good. And I think that Percy Jackson is a great franchise. And as I was watching it, my wife and I were watching it, and we were, I think she's pretty excited for the second season as well. I don't know if she's as huge of a fan of it as I am, but she does like it. She enjoyed it. We watched the whole first season. Second season looks really good. If you haven't seen this trailer, please go do. Definitely a lot. If you've read the book, then you'll see a lot of good key points from the book as well. But I think Season 2 is going to be great. But it got me thinking. I looked at my wife and I said, all right, I'm going to give you a hot take here. And I think that this one might actually get me stoned if people ever saw me out in public. Percy Jackson, the story of Percy Jackson, the books, they're a better story than Harry Potter. I said it. I stand by it. It is a better story than Harry Potter. And it's comparable to me because of the age of your main characters. And that's what she and I had talked about. My wife doesn't really, like when it comes to like franchises and stuff like that rely on like children. So they're all are, right? They're children. She like it doesn't. She's not really drawn to that. I thought about really describing that in a different way and saying my wife hates kids. She does, I think. Like she loves our kid sometimes, but I think like she has a point, right? Like I think sometimes that those franchises can be a little cringy whenever they're relying on children to be able to lead their stories. So I think Percy Jackson and I think Harry Potter, I think they're both comparable. I think that those are two franchises that you can look at and kind of see a lot of comparisons in your characters. Obviously storylines are different, but maybe for me it's just like the mythology behind the gods and all that kind of stuff. That got me more hooked and drawn into it than, the mythos of Harry Potter. But I think Percy Jackson is a better story arc than Harry Potter. However, I mention this in large part because we have the Harry Potter television series on HBO coming out. And that's going to be huge. And even though I think that Percy Jackson is a better franchise and a better series than Harry Potter, I am not dumb, right? Like Harry Potter is significantly the more popular one and is significantly the cash maker, right? The money maker of the two franchises. And so the Harry Potter TV show is going to be really good. I think that, I think it's going to be popular. I think, but it seems like they're making a lot of all the right choices on who they're casting for the Harry Potter TV show. So I'm excited. I'm going to watch it. I think that it'll be good. I don't know. I wanted to share that with you. Like I don't shit on Harry Potter. If you're a fan of it, like I'm happy for you. I don't want you to think that like I'm saying that your stuff sucks. Like I'm not. And even if I did think it sucks, like you're entitled to love crappy things, right? So, but I just think at the end of the day, my hot take is I think Percy Jackson is a better storyline, a better franchise than Harry Potter. I'd love to know what you think. Am I crazy? Did you just unsubscribe from my channel? Tell me, let me know in the comments. I'd love to be able to hear from you. And tell me, what do you think about this new trailer for Percy Jackson Season 2? So up on my channel right now is a video where we broke down the live action fan casting of a potential Final Fantasy VII live action movie. So I went through went through TikTok and had my following vote on who they would think should play certain characters throughout the live action Final Fantasy VII remake. I'm not going to go through that list because there's a video out for it. I want to be able to share that with you guys. So go check out that video. But it got me thinking, with the Final Fantasy franchise, Final Fantasy VII is clearly the most popular. I don't think anyone can deny that. Whether you think it's the best or not, that's a whole totally separate question. But I think it's definitely the most popular. It's the one that Square Enix keeps going back to. It is their moneymaker, their cash cow, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. With all that being said, when I was thinking about live action adaptations of Final Fantasy, I thought to myself, what would make the best live action adaptation? And originally, I went between Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X because those are my two favorite. And I think that they are arguably the most popular two of the franchise. But when I really started thinking about it, Final Fantasy VIII, I really think would make the best live action adaptation of the Final Fantasy franchise. And here's why. I don't think you make it a movie. Now, I'm always one that's like movie first. I want to see it be made into a movie. I love television shows, but like at the end of the day, if you're going to give me a story either in a movie or a television show, 99.9% of the time, I'm going to go movie. This is the 0.01% of the time where I'm going to say a Final Fantasy VIII live action television series would be the best live action adaptation of any Final Fantasy thing ever that we have ever gotten or could ever get. Actually, I don't want to say could ever get. There's obviously potential for more games, but I think like when you look at what's out there now, a live action Final Fantasy VIII adaptation of television series would be the way to go. So I want to talk about that briefly just for a second and what that could potentially look like. First things first, I think you need a studio that would really put a lot of thought and love into this, right? I think you can't just make it the next ABC, Saturday night television show on network TV or whatever, right? It needs to be with one of the main platform streamers. It needs to be with someone like Amazon or Apple or Netflix that are going to put time, money, energy into this. And so when you find the right platform for it to live, there are aspects of Final Fantasy VIII that I think really draws itself to making a great television series. So the first thing is with the seed aspect of it, right? The military school aspect of it. I think it gives you a lot of consistent B and C plot points throughout the story to kind of keep us going episode to episode. It's always the hardest part of a television series, right? Is you have your main story arc, and that's cool. Like, that's the easy one to be able to flush out. But as you're going, if you're talking about, let's face it, in the world of television series right now, it's probably going to be 8 to 10 episodes. and not the old school traditional 22 episodes, which would be phenomenal. I would love that. But let's just say 8 episodes. You're going to need these B and C plot points to kind of work their way through. And I think there's a lot of different levels that you could go with the military school aspect of it that would continue to kind of give us intriguing plot points and character arcs and, relationship building within this world. But that's just the groundwork, right? Obviously, your main character is Squall. Where do you take that character? And I will tell you this, before we get into any other points, I mean this wholeheartedly. Squall's storyline, his character arc, his story arc in the Final Fantasy games is probably the most relatable of any other character in any other Final Fantasy games. Just because I haven't played all the games doesn't mean I don't know the characters and the story arcs, right? So don't come at me because there are several games I haven't played. But I'm speaking solely from Andrew, a dude doing a podcast here. Squall starting so cold-hearted and isolated from the rest of the world, feeling alone and being comfortable in that aloneness is so relatable for a lot of individuals, not just males, but just people in general, especially nowadays. Like we live in a world where social media is what keeps us connected, but the moment we shut our phone off, it's just us, and we're just there by ourselves. And to be honest, we've come too comfortable with that as a society and as individuals. And Squall's story of this, and look, there's a lot of also like masculinity traits like you could really dive into, like I don't want to necessarily say toxic masculinity, but there's a lot of like typical cliche guy tropes that you get with Squall. But at the end of the day, it's a guy who doesn't feel like he deserves to be loved, who finally opens himself up to it and allows people to care for him. And I think that that's super relatable. And I think you could go multiple seasons, progressing that story arc for Squall. So I think that gives you a super relatable character and potentially the most relatable personal growth of any Final Fantasy character that we've gotten. But there's also different levels of the show that I think would be intriguing, right? So the wars and the conflicts that happen between the different nations in Final Fantasy VIII, like that's going to give you a global scale. It's going to give you a reason to be able to take this show out of the military base and the school there and give you a reason to be able to explore new worlds and new towns and new terrain, right? Like throughout the course of this world, it's going to give you such a this broad landscape of what this world looks like, while still like making us just feel very immersed into a world that's not our own, if that makes sense. And I think that would make for an incredible series and an incredible point to that series. But here's the biggest two, right? Aside from Squall and his story arc, I think that there is a fantastical element, the time travel element to Final Fantasy VIII that would give the show a very fun sci-fi aspect to it, without being overwhelmingly a sci-fi television series, right? And then the love story between Squall and Rinoa. I go back and forth on this, so I'm not gonna come out and just say it, but I think that they are potentially the best love story of any Final Fantasy game as well. And I think it's in large part because obviously a lot of the main characters in Final Fantasy, the guy characters, are like, oh, you can't love me, like I'm cold-hearted and whatever, right? It is what it is, right? It's all the same character trope. But again, it was so thick with Squall, and for him to be like just completely sideswiped by a character like Rinoa that just kind of caught him so off guard and turned his world completely upside down, like that's so relatable in so many ways. Like so when I met my wife, fun story here, I met my wife on MySpace. One, that tells you how old we are. I get it. But two, like, it was not, I wasn't looking for, a future wife. Like, I had just gotten out of a relationship, and I was looking for someone to have fun with and get to know and just enjoy my life. I was 21 years old, wasn't looking for any sort of commitment, and met my wife on MySpace. Thought she was beautiful, met her in person, and I don't know, like, from that moment everything changed, and the way that I viewed everyone else in comparison to her, it just all changed, right? And I think that when you look at Squall, and the first time he sees Renoa, that happens to him. It's all different now. The perspective you have of the world is just completely different. And I think that love story would really keep this show grounded. What do you think? That's my pitch. Live action Final Fantasy VIII television series. What do you think? How do you think it would do? Put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Alright guys, that's our show for today. And listen, if you are still hanging around, listen to me ramble, listening to the podcast, I just gotta say thank you. Like, it truly means a lot. I know how busy life can get, and I know how hard it is to make time for the things that we love. And so the fact that this podcast is one of those things, honestly, I couldn't thank you enough for that. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being around. And just remember to like and subscribe, all that other kind of fun stuff. But more importantly, if you do anything, make sure to share, because I want to be able to grow our community and be able to kind of share in our fandom together. So until next time, I'll catch you guys at the same Batmandrew time on the same Batmandrew channel. Thanks, guys.